The late-night shift at the McDonald's on Route 12 was a desolate landscape of fluorescent hum and grease-laden air. Outside, the world was muffled by a thick, freezing fog. Inside, Maya, 20 years old with hair the color of midnight and eyes the sharp, bright green of fresh emeralds, wiped down the stainless steel counter for the 100th time. She was the closing shift's last line of defense against stray crumbs. Her only company was Ronald. Not the manager, but the statue. A slightly chipped, 6-foot-tall fiberglass representation of the iconic clown, frozen in a perpetual garish grin near the play area entrance. He wore the usual yellow jumpsuit, but the years had given his plastic face a weathered, subtly sinister quality. In the eerie stillness of the empty restaurant, the statue's painted eyes seemed to follow Maya's every move. "Just 20 more minutes, Ronnie," she muttered, nutting a stray napkin with her foot. "Then freedom." The shift manager, a tired man named Gary, had left an hour ago, trusting Maya to lock up. The final checklist was almost complete. A sudden sharp thump echoed from the back of the kitchen, startling Maya so badly she dropped her rag. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "It's just the walk-in freezer door," she told herself, swallowing the metallic taste of fear. "Just the old seals." She crept toward the kitchen, past the order kiosks, and past the figure of Ronald McDonald. As she passed the statue, a faint, sweet, and utterly repulsive smell, like stale cotton candy and old blood, wafted toward her. She glanced back. The statue was, of course, just a statue. Its painted grin was as wide and empty as ever. Yet, for a terrifying second, Maya could have sworn the massive yellow shoe had shifted, leaving a faint dark smear on the clean tile floor. Dismissing it as a trick of the lights, she hurried into the kitchen. Nothing. The walk-in door was closed and sealed. The only sound was the drone of the ventilation system. She walked back, faster this time. She reached the counter and grabbed her phone, her fingers fumbling to call Gary. As she looked up, she froze. The air solidified into a silent, choking pressure. Ronald was no longer by the play area. He was standing 6 feet away from the counter, right beside the soda fountain. His massive, cartoonish head was slightly tilted. The grin that had been merely creepy minutes ago was now a weapon, impossibly wide and glistening under the cold fluorescence. Maya could not scream. Her vocal cords seized in primal terror. She stared into his painted eyes, and she knew this was not fiberglass. The smell, that sickeningly sweet, rancid aroma, was overwhelming now. Slowly, deliberately, the clown raised a hand. It was encased in a huge white glove, but the fingers were long and slender underneath the fabric, flexing slightly. And in its grip, she saw it. A rusted, wicked-looking meat hook, freshly cleaned of grease, but stained an ominous dark brown. "You are beautiful, crew member." The voice was a wet, high-pitched giggle, the sound of static and razor blades. "And it's a late dinner for Ronald." Maya finally found her scream, a thin, high note of pure agony, but it was cut short as the clown lunged with impossible speed. She scrambled backward, tripping over a discarded mop bucket, and felt a burning, searing pain in her shoulder as the hook grazed her. She tried to crawl under the counter, but the large yellow-clad foot slammed down, pinning her legs. She looked up, directly into the ecstatic, murderous face. The mouth stretched wider, pulling the painted edges until they were a horrifying, flesh-ripping wound. The last thing Maya saw was the blur of the descending meat hook, accompanied by a final, guttural laugh that was sickeningly familiar. The sound of a jovial mascot, but twisted into an anthem of carnage. The next morning, the police found the store locked from the inside. They discovered blood, a shocking, heavy amount near the drive-through window, and a disturbed tile pattern leading to the play area. Maya was never found. But later that week, when the new night crew came in, they noticed something different. The Ronald McDonald statue was back in his original spot by the play area. The police had moved him back, they assumed. Yet, one detail was wrong. The statue's oversized painted smile looked wider than anyone remembered. And in the center of the white-gloved hand, the one that had previously been holding a bag of fries, was now clutched a small dark curl of hair, like a midnight ribbon. And if you listened closely, late in the dead silence of the night shift, sometimes you could hear a faint, sticky, dragging sound on the tile and a whispering giggle. Late dinner? Late dinner? The fluorescent lights of the McDonald's on Elm Street hummed with their usual sterile efficiency, illuminating the sticky sheen on the floor and the forced cheer of the "I'm lovin' it" posters. For Chloe, a new hire, barely out of high school, the place was a temporary stepping stone, a means to save up for art school. With her bright, questioning eyes and a smattering of freckles across her nose, she brought a dash of reluctant vibrancy to the monotonous routine. But for Arthur Finch, the store manager, Chloe was something else entirely. Arthur was a man bleached of personality by years of corporate training, balding with a nervous tremor in his hands and a perpetual sweat-slicked sheen on his forehead. To the crew, he was just Mr. Finch, a figure of mild irritation and petty rules. To Chloe, he was just her boss. But to Arthur, Chloe was a delicate porcelain doll he longed to possess, a pristine canvas in the grimy landscape of his existence. His obsession, silent and festering, grew with each shift she worked. He memorized her schedule, lingered near her during breaks, and watched her every move with a hunger that warped his features when he thought no one was looking. One Tuesday night, a particularly slow evening, Chloe was tasked with cleaning the lobby. The air was heavy with the smell of stale fryer oil and cheap disinfectant. Arthur had sent the other crew members home early, citing slow business, leaving just him and Chloe. "Good job, Chloe," Arthur said, his voice a little too soft, a little too close, making her skin prickle. He was standing by the empty play place, watching her wipe down a table. "You're very thorough. A real asset to the team." Chloe offered a polite, strained smile. "Thanks, Mr. Finch." She felt his eyes on her, a physical weight that made her want to bolt. It wasn't the usual manager scrutiny. It was something else, something predatory.
She hurried to the next table, trying to put distance between them. Arthur simply moved too, trailing her like a shadow. He began humming a tuneless, unsettling melody under his breath.
As the clock crept towards midnight, Chloe finished her duties. "I'm all done, Mr. Finch," she announced, trying to sound cheerful. "Can I head out?" Arthur stepped in front of the main exit, blocking her path. His eyes, usually darting and unfocused, were now unnervingly still, fixed on her. "Oh, not yet, Chloe. There's one more thing." A cold dread seeped into Chloe's bones. "What is it?" He pulled a small silver key from his pocket and dangled it. "The back door is locked, and I seem to have misplaced the spare key for the front. I think it might be in the office. I'll need your help looking." Chloe's heart hammered. She knew the protocol. 2 keys, one in the manager, one in the safe. This was a lie. She tried to appear calm, but her voice trembled slightly. "I'm really tired, Mr. Finch. Can't it wait until morning?" Arthur's smile was thin, almost translucent. "Oh no, it can't wait. We wouldn't want anyone to break in, now would we?" He then moved with a speed that startled her, sliding the deadbolt on the main door and flipping the open sign to closed. The click of the lock echoed like a gunshot in the silent restaurant. Chloe backed away slowly, her eyes darting frantically around the empty restaurant, searching for an escape, a weapon, anything. Arthur merely watched her, his head tilted, his expression shifting from stringed politeness to something far more sinister. "You're a special one, Chloe," he murmured, his voice now a low guttural growl she barely recognized. "So much better than all the others. They just don't understand me." He took a step closer. "But you will. You'll understand everything." He reached into his pocket and pulled out not a key, but a pair of gleaming, razor-sharp meat shears, the kind used to cut chicken nuggets. The steel glinted wickedly under the harsh lights. Chloe screamed then, a raw, piercing sound of pure terror, and turned to run, but Arthur was surprisingly fast. He grabbed her arm with an iron grip, twisting her around to face him. "Don't worry," he whispered, his breath hot and fetid on her face. "I'll make sure you stay beautiful forever." The last thing Chloe saw was the insane glint in Arthur's eyes, reflected in the polished blade of the shears, before a searing, incapacitating pain erupted from her arm. Her scream turned into a gurgling sob as she collapsed. The next morning, the police found the McDonald's locked and undisturbed, except for a faint metallic odor clinging to the air. Arthur Finch was nowhere to be found, and Chloe had vanished without a trace. Weeks later, the new manager, a perpetually cheerful woman named Brenda, was inspecting the employee lockers. In Arthur's old locker, behind the stack of faded uniforms, she found a small, unmarked box. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, was a single, meticulously preserved braid of dark hair, tied with a tiny, greasy red bow made from a McDonald's fry bag. Brenda wrinkled her nose, thinking it was a strange prank, and threw it in the trash. But Sometimes, late at night, when the silence of the restaurant settled like a shroud, the remaining crew members would swear they could hear a faint, almost imperceptible snip, snip, snip coming from the manager's office. And if you ever looked closely at the pictures on the Employee of the Month board, you might notice that the smiles of the female employees, especially the pretty young ones, seemed a little too stiff, a little too permanent, as if they had been carefully, painfully arranged.
Exodo. Exodo story.